Hello everyone. Today we have a boxing pad, a well-deserved piece of boxing equipment that is suitable for both beginners and professionals. Today I will talk about 3 excellent punches, such as the basic punch, how it looks on the pad, the jab, and also the hook and uppercut, meaning the straight, the hook from the side, and the uppercut from below. All of these fundamental and preparatory aspects are established on the pad from beginner to pro. First, what can be said about the pad is that if you are a beginner, you need to understand this simplest formula of the 3 ranges. That is the punches thrown at all ranges. But the body behaves differently. At each range, you throw the punch differently. In some cases, you use your hip more, in others your shoulder, sometimes your wrist, and sometimes just a simple twist of the wrist is enough to deliver a powerful punch. In other words, it's like screwing the punch in. So what is good about the pad? And how is it different from the heavy bag? It doesn't move, it's static, meaning it's always in the same position. There is also a certain risk of injury here. Experienced boxers usually never hit the same spot twice. This is because once you've made a dent, if you hit just a little off from that dent, even if the pad is really high quality, a dent will still form, even if it recovers quickly. This is a good pad, but even it has dents. That's why the first thing is the warm-up. For a high-level boxer, the warm-up should already start with defense. That is the initial push which comes from the leg, and with force, how you make contact with the equipment, the movement of the elbows, shoulders, and the rotation of the hips. If you're a beginner, it's enough just to push it a little, because even simple pushes like these with some bending already bring you closer to the navel, one of the most important aspects. Now, regarding these terms like punch and jab, why do boxers use them? And they've been using them for a very long time. At least from my professor, my instructor, where I heard that this term, for example, that punch is the main strike. That is the entire mechanics, and all the power of the main strike are already built into this formula. In other words, for a boxer, every movement is a main strike. It's performed very simply and effectively. This is the very first punch they teach, the main right straight. And now just imagine shouting something like, come on, throw the main right, move, the straight, try it, hit. Instead, you just shout one word, punch. It sounds blunt. Punch, 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 jab, jab, punch. So the sound for the ear, well, it's just more pleasant than if you were to shout something like left hook, or not the main one, or the main one. That's the point here. That's why. Even when you're throwing punches yourself, as you exhale, you say to yourself, punch, or jab, jab, punch. By instilling this kind of habit in yourself, your brain will immediately recall the whole image, everything that's associated with this punch, with this main strike, and how quickly you can transition to it. As soon as your opponent hesitates, you already know for sure the punch goes in. Jab. A jab is an unexpected punch, always unexpected, meaning it's usually quite fast. Although it might not always be fast, but it needs to be thrown at the right moment. So the jab is needed to stop your opponent somewhere, to test them out, or on the contrary, to keep them from getting in. But the main function of the jab is to set up the punch, the main strike. With the jab, you can play with your opponent so much that they won't even notice how you set up the punch. Punches like hooks or side punches are also thrown differently depending on the distance. So there isn't just one way to throw a punch, like only throw it this way. In a fight, because of all the variations, you'll have a ton of different trajectories. So what's good about the pillow? When you drill a certain punch to the point of muscle memory, whether you're moving with it adding some maneuver, or just straightforwardly building brute strength. That's why the very formula for drilling these punches is always tied to a precise sense of distance. Without focusing on distance, that's only when you're at a very high level. You understand so well where you might get carried away, where you need to adjust or twist yourself, that you make these adjustments at the very last moment, responding directly to the situation. And of course, your strategy should always be tied to this. In other words, just throwing these kinds of punches without a real need. Well, as they would say, it's better to spare your body, because all of them are destructive and powerful. And even if you hit hard yourself, you could get hurt. That's why you should start with a gentle warm-up. Work through all the main dirdu preparatory movements you might have. It's actually great. You can even use it just to warm up. There you go. Once again, I'm saying it's better to do these things because this is the right approach. And culture when working with equipment. Next, you should do some light, controlled strikes so you can get a feel for, say, how your arm movement starts from the initial position. The movement of the shoulder blade, the protraction of the scapula. And the movement of the whole body should already be combined with the movement of the scapula, that is, the extension of the arm and the motion of driving the hip forward. In other words, exactly what I'm doing here with shifting my body weight. The strike here can be short, medium, or long. You need to practice all of them. But what should you pay attention to? It's how you press against the pad. A pad is not a heavy bag. It's not going to move. So if you get stuck to the pad, immediately pull your hand back. There should be this kind of springy effect so that on the return, you also concentrate your power for the reverse movement. So that the moment of loading the cannon, so to speak, comes from the reverse impulse. In other words, there are two impulses for a strike. The first and the second together determine the speed. When you go there and back, not just when you go forward. That's why the very first form of striking practice is done strictly with your feet planted, so you can feel the acceleration of your body mass and the correct release at the right angle of the muscular force that you can push out from your shoulder.
Every strike. So how do you adjust each other? That is, somewhere in your joints, your hips, legs, arms. In these areas, you constantly make adjustments so that all these links work together to deliver a strike as one machine. Just as you use pressure and rotation in defense, you do the same in striking. All your strikes essentially are aimed at delivering one precise blow. That's what this main punch should both begin and end with many preparatory strikes. For example, you build up momentum from below. You adjust with a punch, even things out from the side. Take a small step back and finish with a punch in all sorts of ways. But distance is the most important thing. That's why the pad is one of the most effective tools for developing the exact distance for a strike. Because here, you can orient yourself precisely. That is, you understand all these movements, dodges, and so on and so forth. You set yourself up for this strike. That's why the punch, you shoot out your hand, strike with your shoulder, your hip with pressure. At first, do it calmly. You must make sure that you are doing all of this. Now, the straightening of this leg. Let me explain again. The leverage of this leg. If you punch straight on this leg, this is the final accent movement. That's it. This is complete muscle tension. In other words, your entire muscle system contracts at the same moment. So are you definitely straightening? Exactly at this movement, you are already making contact. All the force, the entire movement, including the muscle tension, literally turns you into concrete. Plus, there's this falling part. One, this force multiplies. Now look, I'll explain. So in a fight with this kind of movement, when you're already emphasizing it, that's when you finish off your opponent. That is, you approach your opponent, work them over, and then straighten your leg for the strike. This is the most powerful strike. Well, if all the components, so to speak, come together as one. Now, in a fight, most often, it's this part of the legs that is used for maneuvering. There's a lot of hidden energy here, and it's connected to your movement. In other words, your legs are positioned so precisely in relation to your hands that you can actually feel your leg with your hand. That is, the leg gives exactly as much energy as the hand needs. So like this, by calculating precisely, you can even strike with a delay. In a fight, you will have to strike in all sorts of ways. So it's not just about sticking to one single approach. There are many different ways. The most important thing is to understand how the power travels, how you can generate it simply from the ground up, and also by shifting your body weight. Here's a strike from below. Here, I'm simply pushing the power up from below, and then catching it with my body as I extend on one side, and by rotating my hip on the other. In other words, I'm amplifying the force. It's the same with a hook. I'm literally pulling the mass. And if I fully straighten my legs, I won't be able to create this effect quickly. That's why you should think of this part of your legs as a spring. It really helps you punch. And from it, you can strike very quickly and transition into some kind of defensive position. So straightening the leg is an accent. But a springy leg is a dynamic form. That is, it allows you to move quickly and reach your target fast. Oops. One, you hop strike and step back. This part is the foundation for the punch overall. And this seemingly insignificant little hop can add, I don't know, maybe 100 kilograms of force to your punch simply because you're hopping and doing it at the right moment, doing it in unison with your entire body mass. So, the punch. The main punch is chosen from mid-range aim, and the body tries at first, well, sort of like this. When you press down fully on your foot, you completely shift onto this axis. So, this is the movement. Because your entire backside has rotated, it doesn't go any further. In other words, a certain rigidity appears in the punch, where you can really press with the ball of your foot. That is, you literally drive it in, pushing your whole body together with the extensor in a single chain. Pushing, pushing. Press once, press again, press again. This part and this part. That's what a punch is. A punch can also be thrown from an angle. You can bring your hand out like this or like that, but the movement will still be straight. Therefore, the direction of the push should also follow this straight line. With a hook, you shift your body weight, move from one leg to the other. The most important thing here is not to lose your balance. There's a very good preparatory exercise where it's as if you're hooked onto a resistance band, pulling it toward yourself with all your strength, and your right hook comes out naturally. One, your entire body mass has shifted over, pulled, stretched, stretched. Now the position of the fist, like this, like this, like this. To make it easier to understand, how to hold your wrist correctly. Imagine a circle. All these grips you make on the circle. That's the correct position for your hand. So if you're aiming for the top part of the head, you'll be forced to take this position. Well, you can add a slight twist if your wrists are strong. If you strike like this and at this distance, well, it's possible. But about 1 out of 10 times, you might injure your hand because the bend itself on this kind of surface, well, the tension is, let's say, incorrect. And conversely, if you strike like this while bringing your hand down, you'll get the same effect. So here, on the contrary, you need to twist your hand. As for the direction, let me say again, just as a tip, imagine a circle, and as you move along that circle, you should position your fist so that it's always in the correct position. This is very important because a hook has the ability to strike both straight, that is, in the direction of a straight punch, and also to pull the target slightly toward you. In other words, you kind of pull it in just a little at the very last moment. Well, how should I put it? It's like luring or drawing it in with the punch there to set up the next strike. Now, a very tricky jab. The jab, well, this is how my coach taught me. By the way, I learned this very concept from him, that the jab is always a punch that sets up the right hand. So in terms of technique, it's a punch where you don't necessarily have to jerk your hip. It can just shoot out quickly from the torso. And the second, for example, can already go with the transfer cut of body weight. So you just throw it and then go. This punch makes it very easy to hide your step. Boom! You throw one as a feint and then immediately throw the second one. Boom! Boom! The jab doesn't have to come back. That is, your hand can stay out there. If you have good defense with your right hand, you can keep poking your opponent from all sides. A jab isn't just about throwing your hand out. Gee! It's a very tricky punch. It really holds your opponent back. That's why a lot of the load falls on the arm itself. Because 90% of the force comes from this tension. The rest, so to speak, are just resting. But each of them in turn can land a punch. Now, this part, when you start working on the pad, always try to step into it with your foot. Sometimes getting closer, sometimes moving away. To make the punch invisible, you need to hide the very form of this lightning fast part of the strike. That is, you can fake somewhere and immediately strike while the person is still distracted or just got scared. And gradually, you need to really play with this distance here to get a feel for it. Now look, from the frontal stance, you can align, meaning set the direction of this drop. So in a way, the stance helps you either amplify the strike somewhere or, on the contrary, let it fall short. It all depends on your objectives. You can use it to soften the blow, to meet the opponent lightly, or you can make it very hard. Now, for a powerful straight left punch, this is a slightly different punch than a jab. The jab, I'll say it again, is a cautious, very tricky punch. In a way, I'd even call it a sneaky punch. It can be very sharp, or on the contrary, more of a pushing motion. Seems like nothing, but it throws you off balance. So, to learn how to throw a strong straight punch, you also need to push off with your leg, transferring your body weight. But this time, with a slight twitch of the left hip. You don't need to twist it like this. Just give it a little jerk so that the moment of tension once again brings you into a single, strong, muscular contraction. In other words, this punch is kind of a dropping motion. You can also strike with a straight leg or with a bent leg. After every jab, you should always have in mind the immediate transition to the right hand. That is, the jab should go 1-1. As soon as the trajectory for the right hand
opens up and you land with the left, you instantly launch the punch. Now, an uppercut, a hook, and a straight punch are all different types of punches. They are thrown, yes, with the same forces, but along slightly different, trajectories. But each punch needs to be practiced. You need to practice them. For example, today in training, just the punch, just the punch, just the punch. And the punch, by the way, with a hop, a punch with a step, with a feint. For example, coming out of a slip, everything goes into the punch until it really becomes your main strike. Once you have the punch as your foundation, it will be easier for you to understand more, sophisticated punches as well, both in terms of speed and power, no worse than the punch. One of these punches is the cross. It even sounds similar, cross. That is, it's thrown, like a cross over the arm. And it's such a dangerous punch that, I don't know. It's also one of the strongest in boxing. So, guys, take a close look at including exercises with this kind of equipment in your training schedule. It does a great job of absorbing your power. The exercise on the angled pad also brings a certain clarity to understanding the punch trajectory, because here you can strike at an angle. You use the entire edge of the pad. That is not just this main part, but for example, you can also strike precisely along the seam of the pad. With a slight offset, of course. You can even see here, the pad is shaped as if for a slicing motion, aligning with the correct position of the fist. So you can strike it all the way to the top, placing your fist correctly for the punch. This is a very important point. You can approach from the side or align straight on. And here it's about the direction of the wrist itself. You need to have very strong hands to work with this kind of pad. Therefore, if you've never hit pads like these before, it's better to gradually learn how the punches land. All types of punches can be practiced here. Hooks, uppercuts. You can even create certain patterns. For example, defense, defense, punch. How can you do this, for instance, with one hand? How much time will it take? And how quickly should you develop this skill? So all these simple devices in boxing help you properly understand the punch itself. Here's the trajectory. It all seems clear, but when you start doing it quickly, you start to make mistakes somewhere. To avoid these mistakes in a fight, this is an excellent piece of equipment. The angle plays a huge role. Later on, we will continue to look at working with pads because they serve a specific purpose as specialized pad work. Everything depends on the task set before the athlete. In other words, what needs to be developed more? Which part of the punch needs more work? But you can practice everything on it. So don't neglect this. Make sure to train with it. It's a very good piece of equipment. It will definitely help you in a fight. All the best to everyone. See you soon.